What is going on, y'all? Welcome back. The reason you're unhappy is because you keep saying yes. My wife and I spent a lot of time together this weekend, and this is one thing that we've been talking a lot about lately. And it's how we want and how we need to be more deliberate with how we're spending our time and who we're spending our time with. And honestly, a lot of this was coming from my wife. And she has traditionally been very giving of her time. And so more specifically, she says yes to a lot of things. When people say, hey, do you want to hang out? Do you want to do this? And, you know, this may come across controversial for many people, which I think is the opposite of how it could be interpreted. And I'll explain why. But it's the constant, oh, we should get coffee. We should have dinner. We should all get together. We should have a play date, et cetera, et cetera. And I think a lot of it, honestly, keeps us unhappy. And the reason isn't because those people are inherently bad people or the people who want a play date or want to go out are trying to rob us of something. But the more that we're saying yes to all of those things, the less that you're actually working on who you truly want to become. And think about how much time compounds with everything that you're saying yes to. It might seem like an event here or there, or a day there, an evening here. And not only does all of that cumulatively add up, but so does the opportunity cost of not working on who you truly want to become. And so I'll give you an analogy here. Let's say that you're a writer and you're writing a book, and you sit down to write your book. You haven't yet developed the skill of creating an environment free of distraction. And so you're writing in front of your window and the blinds are open and you look up and you see these people walking by and they're laughing and you get distracted and you think, oh, I wonder what they're laughing about. But then you get back to writing and you didn't put your phone away, and then you get an email and you see that it's an important email. And so you stop writing your book so that you can respond. And then you get back to writing. And then you have this brief lapse where you're struggling what to say. And so you open Instagram and then find yourself scrolling for 20 minutes. And then you get back to writing. And you saying yes to everything that you're doing is the equivalent of you sitting down to write a book and lacking the skill of eliminating distractions. Except the book that you're writing is your life story. And instead of focusing on the objective at hand, you continue to let other people prevent you from writing the story that you want to write. And I think there's two main issues at play here. The first is that most people don't actually clearly define what they truly want. And as a result, they go through life doing what they feel like is expected of them, or maybe living out what someone else wants for them. But even if and when someone does figure out what they want, the second issue is feeling that you're being nice by saying yes to the play date, saying yes to the night out with the boys, or yes to the dinner out with the girls. And because you don't know how to say no, the actual time you have to work on what you actually want is cut in half, or maybe worse. And then you try to sit down and write your life story, but you keep getting interrupted and you can't even sit down long enough to finish one chapter. And I'll give you a real life example of what this looked like for me. This weekend when my wife and I were together, she asked me, if you could live your 20s again, would you still go out and party as much as you did? And then she more specifically asked, do you regret hanging out with the people you hung out with and going out with them so much? And for more context, I spent a lot of time in my 20s, especially my early 20s, going out almost every weekend, bars, clubs, etc. And I justifies it because, you know, I had a job that I was working 50 to 60 hours a week. And I was working hard during the week. And why didn't I, quote, earn the right to, go out on the weekend? And I told her, after I thought about this for a second, I don't think it's about me regretting who I hung out with. I think I simply lacked clarity as to what I wanted. And because of that, I said yes to everything. If I'm not clear on what I want and someone asks for me to do something and it sounds, quote, fun, well, I said yes. And maybe even sometimes I would initiate doing things like, hey, we should hang out or we should do this. And I would initiate those things because I lacked clarity on what I truly wanted. And therefore, if I didn't know what I truly wanted, then I didn't know a path that I should be working on in order to get there. And so the first thing I think you can do, if you're listening to this and you're not clear as to what it is that you want, your highest return activity will be getting crystal clear on that. And then once you're clear, having the courage to say no to everyone who thinks it'd be a good idea to steal your precious time from you, the only time that you have to build the life that you want. And I use the word courageous because it can be difficult to say no to people, especially if you have a history of saying yes, or maybe these people are friends or family. And the way that's worked for me, that I've been able to do this, is I just simply say, hey, look, sorry, I'm in a really busy season right now, so maybe in the future. And you know what? If that busy season is 5 years, then so be it. And you got to think about which scenario is going to make you more fulfilled. 5 years from now, looking back at all the events, all the dinners, all the random shit that commandeered your time, or looking back at what you've built over the past 5 years because you took control of what you were doing, what it is that you wanted, and you were able to work distraction-free for an entire 5 years. And I think what's great about when you do this is that because you're so focused on your goals, the only people you end up wanting to be around and wanting to accommodate your time are those pursuing their goals, or maybe even those who are ahead of you. And your general quality of life gets better because you're no longer around people aimlessly living their life. You're no longer around people who all they do is talk about other people. You're around people whose mission it is to improve themselves. And as a result, they make you better. And you find yourself in this constant loop of making each other better. And then as a result, you say yes to more people in that circle. But what's ironic is you find that you saying yes to people in that circle actually gets you closer to where it is that you want to be. Because when you get together, you're talking about ideas, you're talking about improvement, you're talking about building. And so it's this weird, in the beginning, you're saying no to everyone, and you actually find out the reason why that's helpful is because you're not pursuing similar goals. But as a result, over time, you find yourself attracted to being around people who are pursuing their goals, and you say yes to that. But because they're pursuing something similar to what you're pursuing, they actually help you get closer to your goals. And something you'll probably notice is that when you say no to more things, you will be more alone, especially in the beginning. And I think for some, that may feel lonely. For me personally, I actually really enjoy being alone. And so for me, if the definition of being lonely is being sad because you are alone, I think the only sadness I felt is that there aren't more people readily available for me to spend time with who are pursuing something similar. But that in and of itself motivates me to keep getting better so I can earn a spot at that table where all of those people are pursuing what it is that they want to pursue. But for others, saying no might mean that you will feel lonely, and maybe you feel sad because a part of you enjoyed your night out with the girls, or a night out with the boys, or whatever it looked like. But at the end of the day, this is precisely where you want to be because you are building the next version of you who will be sitting at an entirely different table soon enough. And what's interesting about that, a very close friend of mine, very successful entrepreneur, we constantly talk about how the more that we level up, or the more that we improve, and as a result, we're leveling up, it's like we walk into this new door that we never knew existed. And there are these people behind the door playing this game that we never even knew was able to be played. And we never knew that these people existed behind this door. And it's like each time we get more skills and we improve, we find yet another door with more people behind it, playing yet another game that we didn't know existed. And I think it's very likely that that may be perpetual. The more we get better, the more we're exposed to people who are already playing at a different level. And we never knew that there was a door there to walk through to begin with. And I find that actually really fun. And when you walk through that door for the first time and you're talking to people you're talking to those people for the first time, it's a pretty neat experience. And I'll close with this. If you are married and you have kids and you are not regularly spending time with your spouse without your kids, and this is going to feel like a quick segue, but I wanted to make sure to mention this because I think it's really important for parents out there who are trying to better themselves, but who also have kids. If you're not getting time for yourself regularly, getting time with your spouse regularly, you are intentionally growing at a slower pace than you have the potential to grow. My wife and I have been very deliberate about at least, at a minimum, spending a date night a month. And recently we've been able to finagle some additional time. And every time we do it, the more we do it, not only does our relationship grow stronger, but we get more connected. And as a result, my wife makes me better. The more connected to each other that we are, the more we're communicating with each other. She says that those situations make her better. And guess what? When she is individually improving and I am individually improving, guess what we can do better? We can be better parents. And as a result, we both believe that that increases the likelihood that our kids are going to be able to also become better if they so choose. And so for those of you out there making excuses that you can't find time to be with your spouse, you can't find time to be away from your kids, or maybe you even feel guilty being away from your kids because you feel like you're bad parents. Look, just get over it. I promise you, the more connected you are to your spouse, the better of a mom and dad that you'll be. And so this concept has personally been really helpful for me. And my wife and I were just talking about this weekend. And so I figured I would share a lot of those conversations and thoughts with you. And I hope it was helpful. If it was, if you could share this, maybe copy, send a text to someone, copy the link, send a text to someone, maybe share it on your Instagram story. Literally the one way that this podcast grows is by you sharing it. And the way I know that me shouting into a camera is providing value to you is by seeing that more and more people have shared. And so have a great Sunday, Thursday, walk, workout, whatever you may be doing in whatever part of the world. And I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.